Hey everyone, this is Julie and welcome to another SOFHAB review. And today I'm doing something a little different with a review of what I think is one of the best made-for-television biographical drama films of all time, Something the Lord Made. And for this particular review, joining me today is Rascal Entertainments.
Hello.
Now, for the first time, Rascal did watch this with me. Last week, I seen it years ago and thought it was amazing. And this movie, as I mentioned, was made for TV. It was about the black cardiac pioneer Vivien Thomas, who was born in 1910 and died in 1985, and his complex and volatile partnership with the surgeon Alfred Blalock. And he was known as the Baby Blue Doctor who pioneered modern heart surgery. I really love this story because it is inspiring, informative, and back when I first watched it, I learned about someone I'd never heard of, and now so did Rascal. Before we get started,
Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell if it's on SOFHAB, reviews, and more.
yes, we saw this on demand, and originally it was an HBO movie.
Yes.
So we did get to see it for free in the HBO section. And the movie stars some pretty big actors at that time. Still now, for example, Alan Rickman, Kyra Sedgwick, Gabrielle Union, Charles S. Dutton, Mary Stuart Masterson, and it was Mos Def, who was a rapper at that time, his first role, and he knocked it out of the ballpark. So, what did you think of seeing this movie for the first time and all that you learned?
Well, first thing that struck me is that I had a realization that a lot of these types of movies, biographical movies, really aren't made anymore. There was a time when you would have biographical films about people during this time period, and you will learn just how much impact they had on anything, on sports, in media, and now in medicine and literature, and there's just like what they say, unsung heroes. And this is one of those movies, and apparently he has such a big impact on the medicine field, and it went largely unknown, or at least not as well known, until the movie came out and more people got to know firsthand. And most films now really more focus on the activism segment, where they show people out fighting for the cause instead of just doing it under radar and silently being the heroes. They are more prone to the ones who are louder in voice. But what I like about this movie is that it already spoke volumes without having to be more direct about its message.
Absolutely. And I thought this would be perfect to cover for the month of February, being Black History Month.
Yes.
And I want to tell you guys a little more about the background of this film. If you haven't seen it, you really should. But let's tell you a little bit more about it. I'm going to read directly from the description itself. A man who in life avoided the limelight, Vivien Thomas, remained virtually unknown outside the circle of Hopkins surgeons he trained. Thomas's story was first brought to public attention by Washington writer Katie McCabe, who learned of his work with Blalock on the day of his death in a 1985 interview with a prominent Washington, D.C. surgeon who described Thomas as an absolute legend. McCabe's 1989 Washingtonian magazine article on Thomas, like Something the Lord Made, generated widespread interest in the story and inspired the making of a 2003 public TV documentary on Thomas and Blalock, Partners of the Heart. So that is how this movie itself came about. It did win quite a number of awards and was nominated as well.
It deserved them.
Absolutely. It won Best Casting TV Movie of the Week. It also won Best Music in a Motion Picture Miniseries, Outstanding Made for Television Movie, Outstanding Cinematography for a Miniseries of Movie, Outstanding Single Camera Picture Editing for a Miniseries of Movie. It also won 10 more awards. And as you said, absolutely positively well deserved. The story is so inspiring. That's what made me remember it later. It's Black History Month, and I said, you really should see this movie because it's outstanding. I remember the joy that I felt watching it, not only learning about a time period that you only read about in history books, or you see from different points of view from the people who experienced it. You got to see it depicted in a way that you saw the times, but you got to see, as you alluded to, there were people who got along and people loved each other just for the sake of being human brotherly love. And he was a man who was born with a gift for remembering, and his desire was to be a doctor from the beginning. And I was saved through his positive thinking and through the law of attraction. He ended up in a job working for a researcher, and he got to fulfill his life's dream. And I mention law of attraction because within this movie, anytime anyone criticized anyone or said anything badly about anyone, Vivien Thomas didn't do it. I thought it was one of the things that struck me positively on a great level, is that you never heard him say anything bad about anyone or badmouth anyone. Now, as we know, with social media now, it's as easy as typing a few letters. But back during the time when you didn't have social media, you were seeing people face to face. That's how you interacted. You had some phone conversations. This was a person who chose not to be involved in the negativity, and it paid off for him in an indescribable way.
Right. And another thing is that the two doctors had one of those unlikely friendship type stories. It's not a trope because it's really happened.
Absolutely.
So it's another thing that we rarely see now in movies in general. We don't really see a lot of people's bonds, whether written fictionally or recounting events. And in here, it really showcases how two people that really shouldn't have gotten along did get along. And you saw that the man was not one you would think would automatically be a person in the wrong and then went good or something. The man never had any prejudice in the first place. What they dealt with was that despite Vivien being his assistant, he still wasn't allowed certain plays, even with him there. It was like, no, still doesn't change. Even though he's with you, doesn't change. And what was emphasized, like, yeah, even with this going on, they still had the friendship. They still worked together. And it is unfortunate still certain things came about, but there were more of things just getting in the way. They weren't done to various extremities where it would result in conflict or harm or something that would be really unpleasant to watch. It's still pretty even safe for most audiences to watch. Aside from some swearing here and there, it's pretty close to being a family film, like a historical film for families to watch.
Absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, he began working for him in the 1940s, and you can see the clothing and the cars and different things. And it looks like in 1967 is when they made the discovery of how to help cure the blue babies. And again, there's just so much you learn from this. I agree with Rascal. It was a wonderful film for not only the reasons she mentioned, but also because within that friendship and the relationships that were around them, the director and the producers and the writers chose to show the positive things.
Right.
And I'm sure there were probably many instances of things that happened within both their lives, especially within Thomas's life. But what again I came away with is having a positive attitude regardless of what happens around you, regardless of what's going on. Not being negative, not bad-mouthing, insulting, taking things personally when it's just the way things are,
right,
and not making it personal. I have no idea what it was like to live during that time. Most of us listening at this time don't.
Right.
And we'll never know. And that is a blessing. But I do love when someone comes along and say, hey, we're going to show you the truth. But within that truth, we're going to show you the beauty of different things and aspects that
It doesn't have to be tragedy all the time.
That love was here and could be found. That good came amongst some of the relationships that transpired. And here's a story about two people you didn't know they had a friendship, and one person you never knew the difference that he made on the world.
Right.
Vivien Thomas's contribution not only to Johns Hopkins, but also to the world and to the hundreds, probably millions of lives that have been saved since, should not go unnoticed. And I'm just grateful that I got to see this movie not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yes.
Twice alone and once with you.
Right.
Have any of you seen this movie, Something the Lord Made? If so, let us know in the comments below. And let us know, what did you think of it? And did you come away with the different things as we did?
Right. And I have one last comment to make on the film, that another positive would be that it didn't show a biased view or writing standpoint of the events. As you said, they focused only on the positive aspects. Even with the time things were going on, they were still showing him persevering and getting to his dream. And I liked that they showed not everybody. It wasn't just one-sided. It wasn't black and white. The pun. It wasn't one-sided where everyone who was one way was prejudiced and everyone who wasn't. It was a mixture of people that were and weren't. Not everybody was thinking the same way at the time. And then you saw like a quick shots of real events that happened later, and you knew what came about and how bigger changes happened. And it's something that's really missing now, because a lot of people make biased writing, or they choose stories where it only shows a biased point of view. But with here, you're seeing both sides, and there's something to see out of both. Not everybody felt the same way, and it wasn't mean-spirited or trying to spin something that is untrue. They told you the events, they told you the friendship. It felt real on screen. You know, these were people pretending to be other people. And I think that is also why they won so many awards and nominations, because everything that was genuine came through.
I think you're right about that. It did feel genuine. It most of the time, it didn't feel like you were watching a movie. It just felt like you were watching the story of someone's life unfold. It's 110 minutes, in case you're interested in seeing it. And I want to check for you to give you the facts correctly. It was a 34-year partnership between Blaylock and Thomas. And it begins actually in the Depression era Nashville in 1930, when Blaylock hired Thomas. So we were a decade off. And another thing I did want to mention is that at the end of the film, in the formal ceremony in 1976, Hopkins recognized Thomas's work and awarded him an honorary doctorate. That was one thing about the movie that I was disappointed about, and it's what happened in his real life, so it wasn't anything that the writers did. At every point, I kept thinking that Dr. Blair was going to send Thomas to medical school. Even his wife in the movie said, "You haven't sent him to medical school yet. That's what he wants." He didn't send him, and part of it was because, from what it appeared in the movie, he really not only liked the friendship, fellowship, the working partnership, and just teaching him and him teaching him in return. Because Thomas was gifted. He easily picked up information. No one had to tell him to record things, write them down. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. And I think, based on what I see in the movie, he just didn't want to part with that friendship and that relationship that they had. I personally wish he had been given the opportunity to go to medical school and had gotten his doctorate. But then again, if he hadn't, the groundbreaking work they did together would have never happened.
Right.
So it's like Law of Attraction says, just allow it to go as it's supposed to and follow the path that unfolds. And look what unfolded as a result of that. If he had gone to medical school, the groundbreaking procedure probably never would have happened.
Right.
So, again, if you've seen this movie, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't, see if it's on demand, see if it's on YouTube, see if it's on maybe on your local TV, cable station, or anything. It's a movie you definitely should watch. Not only is it excellent for Black History Month, but just any time. And seeing that within all the things that have happened within the United States and our country, there have been so many good things that have happened as a result of people working together in love, in brotherhood, and just caring about people as being human beings. And what they discovered was because they were upset that so many babies were dying from this, which was very common during the time. And because of that love and that caring, this is a procedure that's become routine, and this is something that babies don't have to suffer or die from.
Right, hence
anymore.
the title, because it brings
the
up
Lord made.
Yes, and it actually comes into play when it gets towards the end of the film.
Absolutely. So, thank you for listening, and if you haven't already visited Rascal Entertainments channel, visit. She's got awesome content, awesome reviews, awesome mashups. Just so much more is there than I could ever tell you, and it's definitely worth visiting. And thank you so much for joining me again.
Yes.
And she will be returning again.
Yes.
And I hope
you
will too. Thank you for your support and for watching. And if you want either of us to check out your channel, let us know in the comments below. We'll be sure to check you out and support you as well.
Yes, and be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on SOFHAB for reviews, videos, health, and more.
Thank you. So thank you for watching and listening. I'm Julie.
And I'm Rascal.
Continue to be happy, healthy, and home.
Later.
See you next time.